It is one thing to pore over numbers and statistics about the decline of species. This many billion, that many trillion. It's all just numbers on a spreadsheet, isn't it, TJ? Isn't it?
Maybe.
It's another thing entirely to look in the eye the beasts that have disappeared from this planet as a result of human indifference. And you may be shocked to learn, TJ, that looking at some of these beasts is well and truly looking in the mirror. Tonight, all of the poor beasts that have gone the way of the dodo get deep, fat, fried.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to DFF Fried. How's it going out there, universe? Oh, yeah.
Hello, 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 everybody.
Oh, motherfucker. Yeah.
Hey, TJ.
Oh, I feel the energy coursing through my
One of your
veins.
relatives on the screen here. The fucking dodo.
We're at,
So fucking funny, Scotty.
dude, it's actually funny that Scotty made that joke because we're going to talk about that tonight.
Wow.
But we've
Wow,
got we've got to have some banter. You know what I mean? We got to have a little
I
bit
just
of.
want to jump right in. It was like, yeah, TJ, you look like a dodo. Anyway, let's fucking segue in that. Come on, Scotty. There's got to be some banner, Scotty.
Yeah, Scotty, what's going on in the world today?
Quit jumping the gun, motherfucker. Quit jumping that fucking gun.
TJ, you should watch how you speak to your betters, dude.
Quit jumping
Watch
that.
you should regulate that a little bit better, TJ. Get some bad impulses.
Dude, do you know why TJ's all like high energy right now? Before you came in, I played him some Kanye.
Oh, shit.
I played him some Yeezus off the Yeezus album, and he fucking was vibing to that shit, and it put him right in that fucking zone.
Yeah,
look at him.
in the zone.
That's what I've been doing, dude. I've been listening to high energy music before the show.
So
I throw on some Kanye for TJ.
I was listening to Queen, so
Well, you did that too.
Queens don't
But it was
stop me now. I mean, the Kanye shit was fine too. But,
It was the Kanye that led you to the Queen, TJ, and you know it.
Okay.
He sent you in search of the energy, and you found it. And look at you, rocking away just like Hitler at the Olympic Games, dude, in 1928. Look at you.
Speaking of Hitler, I watched that movie Jojo Rabbit yesterday. You
Jojo?
guys seen that?
No.
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 Everyone was recommending to me like, yeah, you got to see it. You got to see it.
You
gotta
love it?
see I watched. Not really. I didn't love it. I liked it. Didn't love it. Didn't fucking love it. Sorry. Sorry, everyone who recommends that shit to me.
You know what?
Didn't love it. I didn't love it, you fuckers. It was all right.
I liked it.
It's pretty
I
good.
liked it.
Scarlett Johansson was in it, which I didn't realize.
ScarJo, dude.
Yeah, she was in it, and she was like the kid's mom, and I'm like, ooh, hey, mommy.
Have you seen Under the Skin, TJ?
No. Oh, you know what else I did last night? Sorry,
What?
I didn't mean.
No, I was just asking.
I'm an asshole. I've never seen it. I've never even heard of it. Have you ever seen Crawl, Paul?
Yes.
All right. So last night, I did that thing where I'm like, I'll just fucking scroll randomly, and whatever I fucking land on, I watch.
You
Which
landed on Crawl.
Usually I just don't do it, but this time I'm like, fuck it. I have to actually commit to it. So I fucking, all right, Crawl. I didn't even look at what it was about or anything. I'm just like, I'm watching it. I'm in it. Crawl. And by the time I figured out what it was actually about, I was like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever seen.
It's horrible.
About
It's okay. So here's what happens. The movie opens. There's a chick. She's on a swim team. She's in college, University of Florida or whatever. She's swimming and she's fast, but she's not quite fast enough. There's another girl there that's a little faster, right? Okay, that's how it opens. So you know she's a good swimmer. That's the establishment right there. Then there's a hurricane coming and hitting Florida, right? It's a Cat 5 hurricane, and she's driving in it because her dad's gone missing, and she's going to fucking check and make sure he's okay. She goes to his house against the fucking orders.
This is not called Crawl. It's called Crawl Space.
It's called Crawl. It's called Crawl. It's not called Crawl Space. Anyway, she goes to her dad's house. She looks for him forever. Like they waste like 20 minutes of her just looking around for her dad just because like to fill time. And it's fucking so boring and lame. Finally, she finds him down in the crawl space under the fucking house, right? And he's hurt. Oh no. So she starts dragging him back to the stairs. And then just she's about to take him up the stairs, a fucking alligator shows up and fucking destroys the stairs. It's like, rah, I'm an alligator. And it's the cheesiest, like 1996 CG looking fucking alligator you've ever seen in your life. And this movie in 2020 or like.
Okay, so for the record, I have not seen this movie. I thought you were referring to I had a different movie in mind. I thought this was some 80s horror movie.
No, this one's from now.
Right.
And
I saw the trailer for this one recently.
The alligator chases her for a minute. And at this point, I'm looking at this movie and I'm looking at myself and I say to myself, you're better than this. And I turn it off because I already know exactly what's going to happen. She's going to fight the alligator. Eventually, it's going to come down because the whole movie opens with her swimming and how she's like the second fastest and shit. So obviously, at the end, she's going to fucking outswim the fucking alligator and save the day. Yeah. Maybe it's a fake out and then he pops out and eats her at the end or something. But, you know, whatever. That's still going to happen at some point in the fucking movie.
It's just like a movie that telegraphed its entire fucking arc to you too early.
Right. So I'm just like,
Who cares?
And the alligator looks so fucking bad. Let me see if I can just show you this fucking...
a still of the alligator.
Yeah, well, it's on my screen we're sharing. So what the fuck am I saying? Yeah. Let me fucking see if I can find the fucking alligator so you can see how fucking bad this shit looks. Okay, yeah, here it is. Okay, so this is from 2019, mind you.
2019, so just last year.
I guess there's more than one alligator at some point in the movie, but whatever. Yeah, here. Okay. Okay, here you go.
All right, shit, 1 second.
Dig it. Yeah, everyone turn your cams off, I guess.
All right, I want to see it. Let's see the attack.
Let me make it a little bigger. Yeah, here we go. Check this shit out. What?
Pathetic.
What the fuck, dude?
Oh my god, get out of my face with this shit, dude. Terrible CG.
Those fucking gators, dude. This is the fastest alligator I've ever seen. It like
so really stupid.
Bit her leg and like dragged her like 20 feet in a second.
Dude, alligators do not bust through walls, and
alligators don't move like that at all.
And they don't try and drag people away. If an alligator that size had gotten a hold of her leg, it would have death rolled and torn her fucking leg off of her body.
Exactly.
Yes. And that's how alligators work. And also, like, if alligators were like this, people, like, if there's an alligator, like, oh, look, a big alligator, like, people walk up and look at it and shit. Like, whoa, that's crazy, an alligator. People wouldn't do that if alligators were capable of this shit. If an alligator could, like, smash through barriers and fucking just run its fucking top, I'm a fucking alligator, bitch. You know? That,
right.
It's like like an alligator meets the juggernaut, dude. Like, what the fuck is this nonsense?
And the alligators look so bad. And you know what? Look, I understand not everyone's got a Hollywood fucking budget and shit. And, you know, if you make a movie that is actually good and has good characters and an interesting plot, that
the man versus beast trope can be done well. You know what movie I rewatched recently that does this well, even though it commits the same sins? Deep Blue Sea, dude.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That movie is underrated as fuck. And it obviously makes sharks do things that sharks can't do, but it tries to explain it away with a MacGuffin in the movie. We spliced their genes to make their brains or whatever.
They're super smart.
But it works. But like it works because the fucking script is snappy. It never drags. The movie never lingers too long on an establishing shot before it gets to some action.
Plus that scene with Samuel, I don't want to give it away.
Yeah, I mean, one of the greatest death scenes in the history of movies happens. I mean, it's just so great. Yes. So anyway, so guys,
yes,
while we're talking about crazy animals butchering humans, which is an interesting trope because really it's the other way around.
Yeah,
I have to ask you a question before we start tonight's show.
It's question time.
Do you feel indicted? When you look at this picture, do you feel a sense that this bird is looking at you, not with contempt, but with sad and wistful questioning?
I didn't before, but now that you've implanted that in my head.
Doesn't he look like he's looking at you and saying, why?
Well, I will have to say this version of the dodo is thought to basically be a total fiction. Aside from the skull,
sure,
which everything else here is pretty much just like it's like a Franken beast,
right? We've got some pictures of some actual or some artist representations of dodos and some taxonomical samples of dodos. But yes, we rely a lot on drawings because, we'll get into it, I guess. The fate of the poor dodo bird is slightly misrepresented by history. It seems common knowledge that all dodos were hunted down by European visitors because they were slow and had no innate fear of humans. This is true, but only partially. It wasn't the main reason for their extinction. The truth is more tragic. So here's the rest of the story, guys. How we got to the very last of the dodo birds. Yes, the sailors hunted down many of these trusting birds simply by walking up to them and picking them up or using machete on them. That in itself is a very sad story since there was nothing stupid about the dodo. See, they're infamously and wrongly known, and the word dodo has come to mean a stupid, a dumbhead, a dunderhead.
Yeah.
And the sailors that showed up on the island of, I think it's Mauritanius that these were native to, they mistook simple curiosity because there was nothing on that island that could threaten them. So they had no reason to fear the humans. They were curious about them and they would walk up to them to check out like, what the fuck is this? And then they would just chop their heads off with a machete. And it's, like the common story is basically they did that until there were no more dodos. And that's kind of true. Many were killed by Dutch sailors and settlers, but there was something else that had a much bigger impact on their eventual extinction. And that is also caused by humans, but not necessarily directly aimed at humans, invasive species.
Mm-hmm.
So with the Dutch settlers, they brought rats, cats, pigs, all of which eventually escaped and went feral. And the dodo birds, having no natural predators, laid very well protected nests, and the females only laid one egg per year. So there was one chick, and it did not take long. I mean, a pig will eat anything, and a pig finding a giant fucking dodo egg is like it's like Christmas dinner. So you can imagine these feral pigs, and you know how these happen. Like this still happens in the U.S. They go completely out of control in some areas and completely deplete entire areas of vegetation and game. They will eat literally anything. And when they are introduced into areas where there aren't pigs, they literally dominate the landscape. But all of those other animals I named too, rats were also implicated in this. And in fact, in a lot of the research that I looked at, seemed to think that rats were mostly responsible for the dodo's extinction due to the fact that they're just natural nest invaders. They get in, they crack open an egg, they eat the contents of it, and they go away. You know what I mean?
And the dodo also did not have a huge range. It wasn't like it was, had this large, varied.
Right. They're on an island.
Environment it lived in.
They're on an island species, and they had nowhere to run, nowhere to migrate to get away from these animals that had no business being where they were. No. There were never any rats on the island until they came with the ships and came ashore. Sailors always had a way of letting their pigs and goats escape on various islands they visited. We will hear this story numerous times tonight, by the way. Get ready.
Humanity shows up.
Yep.
That's it.
Cats were brought as working pets. Pigs and rats flourished in the wild. They had no natural enemies on the island. They actually sealed the fate of the dodo by eating all the eggs, as I said. The mother dodo would only lay 1 egg per season, and it did not take long for production of new baby dodo chicks to take a very steep decline. None of the nests were safe from foraging wild pigs and a multitude of newly induced rats. The dodo as a species didn't have a chance at that point and was doomed. Even though those that had nested in more remote places soon had their young chicks or eggs consumed by the invading species.
So really, it wasn't even humans' fault. It was these fucking pigs and rats.
No, it was humans brought pigs and rats with them to this island, so it's the humans' fault.
Well, no, I mean, because the pigs and rats are the ones that actually did it. Like the
pigs and rats were just doing what they were doing.
Pigs and rats here, we expected them to behave themselves, and they didn't listen.
It wouldn't be our fault if the pigs and the rats swam to the island and then did that.
A pig can't fucking buy a ticket on the Continental steamer and decide to take a vacation on Mauritanias and set up a fucking colony. He had to be brought by humans.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Let's say you go to your fucking friend's house, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you bring another friend, right? Okay. And let's say your other friend kills your friend. Is it your fault because you brought him? You didn't know that was going to happen.
It's not your fault that you killed them, but you introduced them. So
ignorance does not excuse people win
murder in that case because you brought somebody.
Well, you shouldn't be charged with murder because you didn't know what their intentions were, but you did bring them.
Listen,
in a way you did facilitate the murder.
It was the ignorance.
Charged with a crime in that instance.
It was the ignorance and the just cold-bloodedness of the sailors that did away with these dodos. They blithely invaded these new places with no thought to the species that lived there, unleashed invasive species, and the ones that didn't have their chicks eaten by fucking rats and pigs were just outright butchered by people who would walk up to them and cut them down just to take their heads back home and show people, oh, look at this weird bird.
So, that obviously is wrong.
No, that isn't.
What I'm hearing here is that mostly it was not our fault. So,
no, you're wrong.
So that's what you're hearing. It's mostly not our fault.
For a long time, I've personally I've gone to bed at night and why did we do that to the dodo? But now, thanks to Paul's research, I realize it's actually not our fault.
So 80 years after the first human came upon the shores of Mauritanias, where the dodo lived, they were all gone. 80 years. Mm-hmm. If dodos had never gone extinct, the word dodo would probably have entered our lexicon not as a derogatory word. Dodo probably wouldn't have taken on the meaning of dumb. In a world with dodo birds, I suspect the word dodo would have meant peaceful or curious, maybe. Mm-hmm. These animals, I did read accounts that as the hunters started killing them, they became more wary and started fighting back. You see this big hooked bill that they have.
Yeah.
And there's numerous accounts of Dutch settlers being maimed or wounded by that bill. So good on the dodo. They fought back at the end, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah. They didn't catch on quite quick enough.
You can only do so much.
The other thing about the dodo though is too, is a lot of times, even though they were eaten, apparently they actually tasted pretty fucking bad. Now, obviously, human beings trying to survive for points in history have not really put, flavor as the top concern. But yeah, apparently they were pretty nasty tasting birds. But
they were not good game meat, just like pelicans.
They were just so easy to hunt that,
And like I said, a lot of them were taken just as trophies. I got this skull to take back so I can show people this weird bird I found, or just killed out of boredom or spite or whatever. Maybe one of them would get too close to camp and they'd be just cut that fucker's head off, throw it in the ocean or whatever. These things were just wholesale slaughtered.
Back then, they're a lot more comfortable with violence, and also
so
a lot less to do.
That doesn't excuse it.
If you feel the urge, God damn, I'm feeling fucking kind of bloodlusty, you can fucking fire up a video game. You can.
I don't really get that urge. I don't really get bloodlusty, but
Well, okay. Well, I mean, I know you like violent movies and video games, so whatever. But you don't have that back then, so you fucking do the next best thing. You chop off this bird's fucking head.
No.
You fucking have.
You're a fucking piece of shit.
Like this whole thing, it's like humanity.
This is like
when this little curious bird walks up, and in typical human fashion, we go, oh.
So is this really what you're gonna do? Is this the new TJ tactic for every polisode? Is to like fabe his way through the first fucking like part of it at least? Like, yes, yeah, dude, it wasn't humans' fault. Humans had nothing to do with the dodo no longer being a fucking species on this planet.
Like there needs to be an advocate for the people here on the show, and I think that humanity got bum rap in some of these.
Well, you've got a fucking uphill job for you, counselor, because the indictments of humanity are fast and furious tonight. Why don't you go ahead and go to the next?
In the matter of the dodo, I declare humanity not guilty. Gavel. I need a gavel.
You're not the fucking judge. You're the fucking defense attorney for humanity.
I'm the defense attorney.
So you ain't got no gavel, bitch.
I'm ordering a gavel right now.
And I'm fucking calling order in the court.
Yeah, only the man with a gavel can do that. Anyway, sorry. Next image.
What you guys know about poor Lonesome George here? You ever heard of Lonesome George?
I've heard of Lonesome George.
He was a story back in the early mid 2000s when he passed away.
Yeah, he didn't. There was none left, so he just had no one to mate with.
Lonesome George, giant tortoise from the island of Pinta in the northern regions of the Galapagos archipelago, was the last known survivor of the Pinta tortoise. He was considered one of the rarest creatures, if not the rarest creature in the world while he was alive. And he became an icon for species conservation. As throughout the rest of the islands, Pinta tortoises were overexploited by whalers, fur sealers, and others in the 1800s. The first potential landfall heading into the islands and the last possible landfall heading home again, Pinta was probably a much-used source of tortoises, thus reducing the population to near zero. The Pinta tortoise was now why they were fucking butchering these animals. Who knows why they would walk up to a goddamn tortoise and kill it? Who knows? I don't know of anything that a tortoise shell is useful for other than decoration. Maybe they were eating them, I guess. I don't know.
So these were the Pinta tortoise?
The Pinta tortoise now, like, look, they are a subspecies of a Galapagos tortoise.
Yeah, they're huge.
But they are different and distinct enough. And you can kind of skip forward if you want, TJ. There's some other pictures of George here.
Yeah, TJ.
So he's not as big as he may.
We're huge, TJ.
Yeah.
So he's not as big as he may appear in that first picture, but they are huge animals. Have you ever seen a Galapagos tortoise?
Not in well, yeah, I think I've seen him at one. I think I've seen him at a zoo.
Yep, I saw one at a zoo when I was a kid. There was one at the Fresno Zoo for a long time that passed away when I was in my early 20s. I saw him several times as a kid. Fucking enormous animals.
Yeah, it's huge.
So the Pinta tortoise was thought to be extinct in the early part of the 20th century. Except the absence of giant tortoise, the island was in near pristine condition until 1959, when fishermen released 3 goats there. Given the distance to Pinta from port, these fishermen simply wanted fresh meat on their long fishing voyages. They're like, yeah, let's release some goats so when we come here, there's lots of goats so we can eat goats.
Mm-hmm.
The tiny goat population, however, exploded, and by 1970, it was estimated to be around 40,000 individuals on the island. The goats had devastated the vegetation, and it essentially eliminated any good tortoise habitat that was left. So any of them that were wandering around after the humans slaughtered most of them were eaten out of house and home by the fucking invasive goat species that was brought and dropped there. In 1971, a guy whose name I am not even going to try, Josef. Okay, I'll try it. Josef Vaglavogli. Vagvogli. Sorry, I tried. I did my best. He was a Hungarian scientist studying the snails on Pinta, and he saw a tortoise, Lonesome George. So he was there not even looking for tortoises. He was there to look at some of the other species that are native to this island. And he's like, walks around the corner, and behind the tree, there's Lonesome George wandering around. And he's like, holy fuck. There's not supposed to be tortoises like this on this island.
That's crazy.
So he recounted his observation back in port. And in the spring of 1972, Galapagos National Park rangers brought Lonesome George to the Tortoise Center on Santa Cruz Island for its protection. The hope was that a female Pinta tortoise would be found, maybe in a zoo around the world, or perhaps even on Pinta itself, and Lonesome George would have a breeding partner, and maybe they could have a chance of possibly getting this species started again.
Yeah.
Even though only one breeding pair is not enough to get genetic diversity and blah, 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 blah.
Right. Yeah,
but they had hopes that maybe they'd find another few tortoises and George would be part of that. Despite extensive searches and extensive genetic analyses of potential Pinta tortoises that were found in zoos, not a single one to this day has been located. Within a short time, the discovery of the Pinta tortoise was big news. So around in the 70s, when they found George, it was big news because they thought this animal was dead for like a long time, 50, 60 years, or I think it was 80 years. It was like common knowledge that this was just another one of those species we'd killed. And here one was, you know.
Goats had killed.
TJ, please just drop it. Please just fucking drop it. Please, like, okay, it was okay. Ha ha ha. The Fabe was funny during the entirety of the fucking Dodo segment. Keep it fucking running. Okay, yeah, the goats killed him, TJ. You're right. It was the goats that decided to take a trip to Pinta and destroy the tortoises. You're right, TJ. Now, can we move on? No. Is that enough for the shtick, or do you have more that you need to say?
No, I'm just throwing it out there.
All right, fair enough.
It's the goat's fault.
Pretty awesome.
The goats did it. Okay, TJ.
Pretty awesome, TJ. Pretty great insight. Within a short time, he was big news. Lonesome George was named after George Gobel, who was a TV comedian at the time, who had a nickname Lonesome George, and it stuck. So,
okay,
I liked it better when it just somebody thought up a good name for him.
Famous Lonesome George at this point.
Yeah. He was in relatively good health, and his age was estimated at over 100 years old by the time he passed away. Unlike other tortoises in the center, however, George became severely overweight, so he had a weight problem. At the end of the 80s, he got put on a diet and he lost weight. Veterinarians and nutritionists examined him periodically, and they made sure he had a good diet, the right kind of diet, and he maintained a healthy weight till he died. He was actually preserved after he died, and I think the next picture is that, TJ.
Oh.
So this is Lonesome George at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City. You can go see him if you want. This is his
crazy neck, you know?
Yeah, this is his actual body. They worked with a very special taxonomist on this. And
I gotta say, whoever fucking did this was super fucking talented.
If you back up, TJ, a couple of pictures to where there was a picture where he was standing with a guy.
Yeah. Hold on, let me do that. I think it was this one.
Yep. So this guy, I don't remember what his name was, but this was his best friend in the world. This was his caretaker the whole time he was at the Galapagos Center, or at least for the last 20 years or so that he was there. He was his best friend, and he consulted heavily on the taxonomy of George. He wanted George's neck to be stretched out, and this was a pose that George would often be in when he was walking around and humans around.
And I gotta say, they did a good job.
So yeah, you can go see George if you're ever in New York City. But this is all that's left of the Pinta Island tortoise. It is a species that was destroyed once again by goats.
Well, this one is accurately represented. I will say that.
Yep.
But unfortunately wiped out by humans. Good job. Oh, but by goats, TJ, right? Goats.
Goats, right, TJ? Ha! Humans are innocent. Ha!
Listen.
I'm sorry, TJ. It's just so funny. I'm sorry to laugh over you. Ha!
The goats came to this fucking island.
Makes me go. The goats at your house and destroy everything. Did I do it or did the goats do it?
Listen, I understand that you guys are big.
Yeah, if I release,
want to blame
animals that damage all of your property, am I responsible or are the goats responsible?
I mean, if the animals destroy my property, then
whatever animals. So if the animals do it, they're responsible, right?
I mean, especially if the animals stick around,
even though they never would have been there for any other reason besides the purpose of destroying your property.
Huh?
It's still their fault.
What animals you talking about?
Just any animals I can find that can possibly.
Well, why would they stay on my property? They're animals. They're going to go all over the neighborhood. They're not going to just stick around. They're not going to know.
Put them inside your house.
Well, I'll let them out.
So, how about this? What if I put one of those boom slings, dude, in your bed?
Well, then
Is it my fault? Is it my fault if I bite you, or is it the?
I'm going to come beat the shit out of you, and I'm probably going to murder you with a fucking pipe or something. You know.
But is it my fault?
Is it your fault? Was what your fault?
If the snake bites you, is it my fault?
Yeah, it's definitely your fault.
Not.
It's your fault at that point.
I didn't make the snake bite you. I just put him in the bed with you.
Yeah, but you knew he was going to bite me.
How did I know? Maybe I hoped he would bite you, but I couldn't know for certain it would bite you, so it's not my fault.
Yeah,
I didn't bite you. The snake bit you, so it's the snake's fault.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
But
you're an idiot, dude. You're a fucking moron.
I'm gonna kill that snake as well.
I like how you go back and no, it would be your fault. No, it would be your fault. Oh, really? So someone else can guide or direct an animal's movement, like those goats.
Yeah,
that island. How their movement was guided by humanity and put on that island.
But hold up. Think about this though. If you fucking come and put the boom sling in my house, you're putting that boom sling in that house specifically to pose a threat to me.
No.
Yeah, that's what he said.
No, he just wanted to make sure there were some boom.
The express purpose of putting it there.
No. Maybe Scotty. No. Maybe Scotty just wanted to make sure that there were boom slings around because he likes eating them.
Maybe.
And he dropped them off in your yard to make sure he could find some boom slings and shit.
In that case, I guess it's not Scotty's fault.
Okay. In that case, it's not my fault. Okay.
Wait, so you're saying intention no longer matters when you're there's a difference between
what I'm saying is this.
Murder, you know?
What I'm saying is this: is that who guided and directed those animals?
Look, the people put 3 goats on the island, hoping that they could have some goat meat next time they came around. They had no idea that those goats were irresponsibly going to breed out of control. And
yes, if they knew anything about goats at all, goats fucking reproduce like crazy. Anyone would know that, TJ. No, they were hoping to have Goat Island. They could go get a bunch of fucking free meat.
Yeah, well,
probably sell that meat. They probably had a bunch of intentions of like, I mean, dude, look, if you put 3 goats with nothing to do, if they have shit to eat and they have a place to fuck that's relatively safe, there's going to be a ton of fucking goats.
Yeah, well.
All right. Well, let's move the tired Fabe to the next animal that humans totally didn't kill. This is the passenger pigeon.
Mm-hmm.
As extinctions go, the extinction of the passenger pigeon is a truly stupendous human achievement, unparalleled in recorded history. Thanks to our penchant for relentless killing, combined with large-scale habitat destruction, these iconic birds' populations crashed from billions to 0 in just 50 fucking years. But how could these birds decline so rapidly? Surely people could not murder every last one of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Shouldn't mind-bogglingly huge and widespread populations protect a species from extinction? Why didn't some pigeons survive in remote areas? So the mystery deepens. This is Derek Jensen. He talks about the passenger pigeon a lot as a victim of human indifference. He quotes a lot of early settlers in America who talked about flocks of passenger pigeons that were so dense that they would blot out the sun, sometimes for days at a time, as these birds migrated to their nesting grounds. And there's literally not one left on the planet. But in a study published in 2014, researchers sought to understand how such an abundant species could possibly be driven extinct, particularly since many scientists have estimated that passenger pigeons were arguably the most populous bird species on the planet ever.
That's crazy.
Despite their huge population, the 2014 study indicated that passenger pigeons had much less genetic diversity than would be expected. The authors of that study suggested that passenger pigeons were not always super abundant. The researchers' analysis suggested that passenger pigeons' numbers had either exploded recently, similar to the current human population explosion, or their population fluctuated naturally by thousandfold or more within short time periods. This population pattern is seen in several outbreak species, like Australian plague locusts, lemmings. Based on their findings, the authors of the 2014 study...
The population undergoes like a boom and bust cycle, basically.
So the authors of the 2014 study concluded that the passenger pigeon was an outbreak species and that their periodic population crashes created genetic bottlenecks that reduced genetic diversity from expected levels. They also proposed that the passenger pigeon's population was already on its way out when European immigrants and colonists came along due to this lack of genetic diversity. Their argument was that this bird had just, developed in such a way that its species was dying out from lack of genetic diversity.
It's a genetic dead end.
And so that took a lot of the wind out of the sails of environmentalists, because it implied that it wasn't, in fact, humans that just hunted these things to death, that they just naturally declined because they were overbreeding and over-inbreeding, and there wasn't enough genetic diversity. But the plot thickens, gentlemen, even further.
Oh, shit.
When the new study challenges that conclusion, after sequencing, there's a new study that challenges the conclusion of the 2014 study. After sequencing and analyzing 4 passenger pigeon genomes and 41 mitochondrial genomes from individuals collected throughout the bird's expansive range, the authors of this new study confirmed that, yes, the passenger pigeon genome had surprisingly low diversity compared to the overall size of the population. But when the researchers examined the entire genome closely, they found the genetic diversity varied. Some regions of the genome had very low diversity, while others did not. This was unexpected. The researchers reasoned that if the passenger pigeon's population had been fluctuating by 1,000-fold for long periods of time, then genetic diversity in all regions of the genome should be affected equally, but they weren't. Further, they discovered that the genetic diversity in the mitochondrial genome did not correspond with the genomic data. Instead, the passenger pigeon mitochondrial genome indicated that the population had been stable for at least 20,000 years.
Wow. So they're arguing. So they're saying like that they don't think that they did do this boom and bust shit, because if that was happened, like the lack of genetic diversity would have been spread across the entire population.
Right.
But
well, they're arguing there have been genetic evidence of that, and of course what they're saying is they didn't find any.
Yeah. So within the last 20,000 years of history here on Earth, there were dramatic climate changes. The end of the Ice Age in North America. This is precisely, by the way, when you would expect to see a population fluctuation. In retrospect, it's obvious that the passenger pigeon could not tolerate much hunting, and certainly not the sort of intense and consistent massacre that they were subjected to by European immigrants and colonists. This is Beth Shapiro, who's a professor in the Department of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology at the University in California, Santa Cruz. I got a few quotes from her here. She says, "Our mass murder of them over the course of decades was just too fast for evolution to keep up. Our study shows that passenger pigeons were strikingly well adapted to living in large populations." I don't know what happened to that picture.
Just bad request.
Bad request. Oh, well.
I'll stay on.
Sure.
On Shapiro here.
That's fine.
Professor.
Our study shows that passenger pigeons were strikingly well adapted to living in large populations, she said. In large populations, natural selection is highly efficient. This suggests that if the environment had changed slowly, as it may have at the end of the last ice age, they would have been really able to adapt to these changes, as they clearly did at the end of the last ice age. However, in the 1800s, the passenger pigeon environment changed suddenly due to hunting. We killed millions of passenger pigeons over the course of only a few passenger pigeon generations. There was no time at all for the pigeons to adapt to this new environment. They did not die because they had very little diversity, but because they suddenly found themselves living in an environment that was very different from the one that they adapted to, and they were overexploited by a highly skilled predator, and now lacking an efficient means to evolve in response to the environmental change is what.
So the environmental change really was just like us hunting them en masse.
Yes.
So why were they so popular to hunt? Were they like food or
game
trophies, or just
they were super abundant game meat. Like literally, once again, there were quotes from early settlers that talk about flocks of these birds that would blot out the sky for days at a time as they migrated.
Right. So
talking about billions and billions and billions of birds.
Too, TJ, you as an individual agent, if you go out there like me and my boy are going hunting and you blast a bunch of these things, you're just thinking like, I'm finding some dinner or I'm finding some food. Like, what they didn't take into account is there's millions of people doing the same thing as you, subsisting off, the land. They're fucking hunting, they're fishing, they're doing whatever they can. So if you times that by people shooting 10 of these things, because like with hunting now, there's like strict limits. You can't go and shoot as many deer you want or as many ducks as you want. I mean, if you do, you're going to get in serious trouble. Right. But there was no regulations back then. It was just as many as you could get. So.
And this in concert with their species' natural inclination to have these big booms and busts in population. It was part of their adaptation. We hit them at a time where their population was lower and they didn't have time to catch back up, and they were never able to repeat the cycle. So they just disappeared. And that was that.
I think the goats did it personally.
So there are taxonomic examples of passenger pigeons that survive in certain natural history museums. They were well documented species. So this is not a chimera like that dodo was.
Yeah.
People spent a lot of time drawing these birds. They were actually, by all accounts, very peaceful and beautiful birds. I mean, you can see here in this painting, they were very pretty, very vibrantly colored. And they're gone. They don't exist anymore.
Bye-bye. We won't be needing you any longer.
But it's okay. We don't have any more cute animals on the list, guys. So don't worry. You won't even feel bad for this next one.
Oh, look at him.
There he is.
Extinct. Oh,
the disgusting, hideous Baiji, or Yangtze River dolphin.
That's so sad. But yeah, these are located in one of the most traveled waterways in China. So
yep.
I guess
they were known. They were known in kind of earlier Chinese days as the beautiful goddess of the Yangtze River. They lived for 20 million years in this river. The Baiji's demise was rapid and shocking. It went from a healthy population of some 6,000 individuals to an extinct species in only a few decades. Really nothing more than a blink of an eye. The Baiji's extinction is the first of a large mammal species for 50 years and is directly attributable to goats.
Fucking goats, man. I knew it.
No.
Fucking, are you serious?
No, it's mankind.
Okay. I was saying, dude, if it was actually fucking goats, like you had me there. I was like, dude, fucking, how the fuck did the goats do it? I have to fucking hear this. Like,
I thought I'd test and see. No, it was us. It was us again. It was us again.
Wrong. It was
spoiler alert. All of these were us except for the final one. The Baiji was declared extinct in December 2006 following an intense, carefully managed, and thorough survey of the entire Yangtze River, which failed to spot a single Baiji. There have been no verified sightings since, and the only conclusion that scientists have come to is that the Baiji is extinct. Now, with some of these animals, this one in particular, because it had such cultural relevance in China going back so far, it's like the Loch Ness Monster. There are tons of people that are like, I saw a Baiji. I was on the Yangtze and I saw a Baiji, but not a single one. I found a bunch of articles that were all fluff from these like pop science, like a Baiji may have been spotted in the Yangtze River, sparking hope for the species, to come back. But every time I read one of those articles to pull from it, because I wanted to put a little hope in this, like maybe this one isn't gone. At the end of the article, it was like, however, to date, none of these sightings have been verified by a scientist, and not a single specimen of the Baiji has been scientifically observed in the wild. So it's gone. It's like the Loch Ness Monster of China now. It's like people see the Baiji, but it's just they're not seeing the Baiji. They're seeing some big fish or some shit.
Maybe they're seeing ghosts of the Baiji.
Maybe so. There was a 6-week survey of the entire Yangtze River. They didn't find a single fucking dolphin. The World Conservation Union has noted the following as threats to the species. So these are the reasons the Baiji disappeared. A period of hunting by humans during the Great Leap Forward. So during the Great Leap Forward, if you know anything about, Mao's Great Revolution and shit, people were not only encouraged, but basically forced at the point of a gun to eschew tradition.
Yeah.
The Great Leap Forward was all about a new tradition for the Chinese people. And this like reverence for this dolphin, no, that's the old ways. And so, whereas before Mao, the Chinese people lived in harmony with these dolphins, there were 6,000 healthy individuals. Mao Zedong comes along, basically banishes sentiment. He's like, none of this old like goddess of the Yangtze shit. Start fucking harvesting these things. And people did.
They're a resource. How a lot of people were starving in China as well.
They also aren't necessarily fished directly. They get tangled in fishing gear. There's an illegal practice actually in China, but it's still widespread in the Yangtze of electric fishing, which is where you drop an electrical source in the water and just basically kill every fish in the area, and they float to the top and you collect them. A lot of Baiji were killed by that. Collisions with boats and ships, as Scotty kind of talked about at the very beginning of this, habitat loss due to encroachment by humans, and pollution of the Yangtze River. Further studies have noted that a lack of information on the Baiji's historical distribution or ecology, the environmental impact or construction of the Three Gorges Dam on the living space of the Baiji. So there's a dam on the Yangtze that completely changed the river. And the failure to act for the protection of the Baiji were also threats to the species.
We basically just did everything we could to kill this, to kill this fucking dolphin.
Let's change your habitat. We're going to hunt you. Oh, we're going to hit you on accident.
All right, so we're going to pollute your waters. We're going to build this fucking dam. We're going to...
how you like this?
We're going to hunt you directly. We're going to fucking drop electric fucking mines in the water to fucking electrocute you to death.
Yep.
Every possible thing we could do to kill your ass, we're going to do.
And more. Yeah. I mean, they completely obliterated this entire species. So as I said, during the Great Leap Forward, Zhao Dedong here, enjoying his rind.
Yeah.
So during the Great Leap Forward, when traditional veneration of the Baiji was denounced, it was hunted for its flesh and skin and quickly became scarce. As China developed economically, pressure on the river dolphin grew significantly. Industrial and residential waste flowed into the Yangtze. The riverbed was dredged and reinforced with concrete in many locations. Ship traffic multiplied. Boats grew in size. Fishermen employed wider and more lethal nets. Noise pollution caused the nearly blind animal to collide with propellers and sharp rocks and shit. Stocks of the dolphin's prey declined drastically in the late 20th century due to overfishing. We just killed it. We killed them. You know what I mean? Totally unnecessary, by the way. The Chinese people had lived in relative harmony with this species for hundreds and hundreds of years, if not longer, without overfishing.
And longer.
This was that time.
Longer, right?
So in the end, a range of anthropogenic causes, that meaning human-based causes, which also threaten freshwater cetaceans and other river systems, have been implicated in the decline of the Baiji population. However, the primary factor was probably unsustainable bycatch in local fisheries. So the rolling hooks, the gill nets, the electrical fishing is really what did them in. There were a lot of boat collisions. There were a lot of that. A lot of them were killed that way. But really what killed them was trying to fish for other fish and them just getting tangled up in nets and drowning.
That's a big thing, dude. Remember with all the cans of tuna, it'd be like dolphins save tuna, because that was a big issue. Was that dolphins would be bycatch, and of course they'd just throw them off or they'd kill them or whatever.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. They're trying to just sell you tuna. So I mean, that's not at all surprising.
As Scotty is saying, I pulled in my research here, bycatch, as they call it. So catching an animal that they weren't intending to is the principal cause of mortality in many populations of small cetaceans like this dolphin worldwide. So dolphins everywhere are threatened by the same thing. They just happen to be fished out of existence.
Yeah, they don't want you, but
Say goodbyes now to the pink river dolphins down in fucking Brazil and shit too, because those are going bye soon.
Those are functionally extinct. They're
knocking on heaven's door.
So this is one of the coolest animals, I think, that's on this list, because it's legitimately something that it looks almost alien. I mean, it's recognizable enough, but it looks like a combination between a cat and a dog and a hyena, and it has this really strange, unhinged jaw. TJ, I know you've got the thing in front. Scotty, do you know what this is?
This is like the Tasmanian tiger.
This is the Tasmanian tiger, indeed.
Yeah. The
extinction of Tasmanian tigers is only the last chapter in an old story that's thousands of years in the telling. In recent history, Tasmanian tigers were restricted to the island of Tasmania, but at one point they lived on the Australian mainland and even Papua New Guinea. Scientists believe that Tasmanian tigers were hunted and killed by humans and dingoes, which were brought by humans, by the way. Dingoes are an invasive species. They're feral dogs. Which ultimately led to the Tasmanian tiger's demise in those areas. Tasmania had few people and no dingoes, though, so it became the last refuge for the Tasmanian tiger and its close cousin, the Tasmanian devil. In fact, by the time white settlers first arrived in Tasmania in the 1800s, people estimated that there were only about 5,000 of these tigers existing in Tasmania. It was enough for the population to sustain itself, but the arrival of humans or white settlers, look at this picture. Look at that crazy fucking jaw. So this animal was a marsupial, like a koala. It raised its young in a pouch, and had all of the other features of a marsupial. It was the last wolf-like marsupial. It comes from a long genetic line of beasts. And it was literally the last of its kind. So this is different than the Baiji dolphin, or Lonesome George, the tortoise, or even the passenger pigeon.
There's still other tortoises.
There's still other tortoises. There's still other very close cousins of George around. There is nothing like this animal anymore. It represented the last of its genetic kind, and there is nothing like it in the world anymore. So it's really strange to look at, because it is a very alien looking species.
It really is. Like, the jaw itself looks unreal.
You don't see these on nature documentaries. Now, maybe if we'd been exposed to them in the same way we've been exposed to hyenas and cheetahs and tigers, we'd feel the same way about this animal. But looking at these gives me a real feeling of loss, because it's like, wow, never seen one of these.
Nor anything even approaching it.
Yep. In Australia, the settlers brought dogs with them. It's likely dogs contributed heavily to the Tasmanian tiger's decline, because they would go feral and become direct competition. And they introduced new canine diseases that, the Tasmanian tiger had no immunities to. There were reports that a distemper-like disease killed many Tasmanian tigers right before the wild population just blinked out of existence. Despite presumptions to the contrary, it turns out there might not have even been physically able to routinely kill large livestock. So they were kind of demonized. Farmers and the settlers thought, oh, yeah, these things kill livestock. Look at them. Look at their big jaws. But really, study of the taxonomical examples of this and the bones of this, scientists have found that jaw, though it's big, really would not be able to crush a bone or do any of the kind of things to large livestock. They think they pretty much ate possums and bandicoots and shit like that.
So maligned because they looked like they were more dangerous.
Yep. And I pulled a video. There's actually, and it surfaced pretty recently, like in 2010 or 2011, a video of the Tasmanian tiger from archival footage of the last known remaining individual. Now you can leave it muted, TJ, if you want, but sure. We can just take a look at this animal moving around. Very strange to see. So this is the newly released video, the last known footage of the thylacine, or Tasmanian tiger.
Benjamin.
Yeah, this is the last one known to exist. He was in captivity. Once again, kind of with the same idea. They brought him into captivity from the wild in hopes that they could find a female, but they never did. And it was only 21 seconds of video that was recently restored and all that. You can see this is from 2020. So this is
it's just so crazy to see this animal
brand new. Isn't it? So their tail, you can see their tail is very stiff. It's not like a canine tail at all. It's more like a kangaroo tail, and it was used for balance, just like a kangaroo tail.
Kind of see the counterbalance of it.
Yep. And just an animal that you've never seen. You know what I mean? The stripe pattern on them, completely unique to their species and their kind of animal.
I gotta say, they're pretty fucking cute too.
Yeah, kind of adorable in a way, and really fucking sad that we'll never see one again.
Yeah.
They are gone, and there's no reason for them to be gone either. They didn't need to be hunted. They were no threat to livestock.
I'm not blame dogs for this because I like dogs.
Yeah, you can't do that, right? You can't blame dogs.
So I'll let humans take the rap this time.
Sorry, this has been kind of a downer episode tonight, guys. I mean, it's been one sad thing.
I tried to inject a little bit of.
Shut up, TJ. Your kayfabe did not inject anything, TJ. No, I'm kidding.
Injected levity.
I understand.
Fucking otherwise bleak and depressing fucking episode.
You know what, Paul? Maybe we can do one. Maybe you have one animal that we thought was extinct, but actually isn't.
Maybe so. There are some examples of that. There are some species that were thought for periods, sometimes long periods of time, to be extinct that were rediscovered. Well, Lonesome George was one of those, you know?
What was that fish?
Yeah. The
fish.
Oh man, what are they called? I used to know the name of that fish. They were thought to be a totally extinct fish. Oh my God. It has some weird name, like a dinosaur's name.
Yeah. Let me see. What was it called?
The fish that we thought was extinct.
Coelacanth?
Coelacanth, yeah. That's exactly it. So yeah, somebody fished up a coelacanth, which was thought to be extinct for millions of years, and this was like in the 90s or something. So yeah, every once in a while some shit, and then like we didn't kill the coelacanth, you know what I mean?
Right, so, yeah, it was dead long. Yeah, we thought it was like long extinct, and then we just found them and like, oh, okay, I guess not, you know. So
they're just very reclusive, and they're a species that doesn't have a very high population, and they live in very deep waters and shit. So there's one more species, maybe inject a little levity. There's one more species on the list tonight, and this species we cannot credibly claim was made extinct by itself, and that is us. We were made. No, TJ. We were made extinct almost. At one point in our history, TJ.
Close. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
We dodged a bullet that you may not be aware of, TJ. So add us all up, 7.8 billion humans on Earth. And if we clumped us all together, we weigh roughly 750 billion pounds. That, says Harvard biologist E.O. Wilson, is more than 100 times the biomass of any large animal that has ever walked the earth. Insects still have us beat, though, by the way.
This is like a magic eye.
Yeah, where's Waldo?
I think I see him. Oh, no, that's just the Union Jack. Never mind.
And the thing is, we're still multiplying. Most demographers say we hit 9 billion before we peak. And what happens then? Well, we're waxing now, so we can wane. But let's just hope we wane gently, because once in our history, the worldwide population of human beings skidded so sharply, we were down to roughly 1,000 reproductive adults. One study that's become actually more credible recently says that we hit as low as 40 breeding pairs of human beings. So
I've heard that. Yeah.
40 breeding pairs of human beings doesn't include the elderly, the infirm, or children. It includes fertile, viable adults. There were 40 pairs.
So just want to say to the dodo and to the fucking pinta tortoise and to the passenger pigeon and to the baiji and to the Tasmanian tiger, you almost dodged that bullet. Almost.
Yep.
You came this close. We were down to almost nothing.
Yeah, if we had died out, They have been probably fucking prancing around Australia right now, like, I'm alive. It's wonderful. I'm alive. The dolphins be swimming through the river still. La 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 la. Having a great time.
So
he fucking just in the graveyard of history.
While 40 breeding pairs is the extreme example that's becoming more accepted right now, most scientists agree that it was likely just a drastic dip, and there were probably somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 bedraggled human beings who struggled together in pitiful little clumps, hunting and gathering for thousands of years until in the late Stone Age we began to recover. But for a time, says science writer Sam Keane, we damn near went extinct. Once upon a time, around 70,000 BC, a volcano called Toba on the island of Sumatra in Indonesia went off, blowing roughly 650 miles of vaporized rock into the air. It is literally the largest volcanic eruption on the planet Earth that we know of. It dwarfs everything else. So go to the next picture, TJ. You remember in the first natural disasters that you've never heard of episode, I covered one of these mountains portrayed here, Tambora in Indonesia in 1815, which killed a broad swath of people and caused what we learned was called the Long Winter.
Yeah.
Or the endless winter.
Something like that, yeah.
It's pictured second here from the left.
That's Toba there.
It shows Mount the
That's Tambora.
That's Tambora. And
you can see Mount St. Helens as well in 1980. Toba is pictured at the end. This was literally a cataclysmic event. The eruption
probably wiped out. Well, it didn't wipe us out, but it probably wiped a lot of other shit out.
Yes. The eruption of this volcano dropped roughly 6 centimeters of ash, a layer of which can still be seen on land all over South Asia, the Indian Ocean, the Arabian and South China Sea. According to the Volcanic Explosivity Index, the Toba eruption scored an 8, which translates to mega colossal. That's 2 orders of magnitude greater than the largest volcanic eruption in historic times at Mount Tambora. So, 2 orders of magnitude larger than Tambora.
The graph says it all.
With so much ass.
With so much ass everywhere.
Oh man, I got a fucking.
I wish it blew.
Super volcanic eruption in this fucking country. Man.
I wish there was a volcano that just blew ass everywhere. Oh my god!
Look at all this ass.
With so much ash, dust, and vapor in the air, Sam Keane says it's a safe guess that Toba dimmed the sun for probably like 6 years, disrupted seasonal rains, choked off streams, and scattered whole cubic miles of hot ash across acres and acres of plants. Berries, fruit, trees, African game became scarce. Early humans living in East Africa just across the Indian Ocean from Mount Toba probably starved, or at least he said it's not hard to imagine the population plummeted.
So at least some starved.
Definitely. For sure. For a certainty. So this beautiful picture here is actually called Lake Toba. Right. This hides
like the site of the eruption.
Yes,
right?
This hides a crater that is 100 kilometers long and 30 kilometers wide. So, and this is more conjectural, but based on arguable evidence, an already cool Earth got colder. The world was having an ice age 70,000 years ago, and all that dust hanging in the atmosphere may have bounced warming sunshine back into space. Sam Keane writes, there's in fact, evidence that the average temperature dropped 20 plus degrees in some spots on the Earth, which is a huge swing. After which grassy plains in Africa shrunk way back, keeping small bands of humans small and hungry for hundreds, if not thousands of years after this. Yeah. So we almost vanished. I think the last picture I pulled is a satellite view of Lake Toba. Kind of gives you an idea of the magnitude of this eruption. Once again,
the Earth had to fucking pop a massive fucking pimple.
Yeah, it had a fucking horrible piece of cystic acne that had to be popped, and it almost fucking popped us with it. And so that's the episode today. I had a lot of fun researching for this episode. I know it was kind of a downer, but I thought it was interesting and fun to look at these animals. And if people liked it, unfortunately, it's a sad tale that I could probably do like 20 episodes of this. So there are
just as far from no shortage of these types of animals,
especially when you're talking about animals that went extinct due to. If
anyone wants a quick ray of hope, I can offer it.
Okay,
it's up to you, Paul.
Go for it, TJ. Ray of Hopus.
Yeah, here's a little tiny ray of hope. 11 living species that were once thought to be extinct.
There you go. That toad still around.
He's still around. We thought he was dead. Turns out he was fine. That
peccary pig, he's pretty cool.
Doing good.
The nightcap oak, we thought that shit was gone.
It's back.
It was okay.
The Laotian rock rat.
Yeah.
There he is.
The meta sequoia. Yeah.
Okay.
The terror skink. I mean,
maybe that one's going extinct. I don't know.
I don't know about you. I'm glad the terror skink is still around, man.
Yeah, he's pretty badass.
Grassland, yeah, whatever. He's still around.
Kind of ant.
The coelacanth we already mentioned. He's fucking. People
good.
Shocked.
He around.
Shocked.
Oh, critically endangered, so not doing too good, but still around.
I mean, yeah, he's not doing. I mean, some of these guys are still not. They ain't out of the fucking woods yet or whatever. But the Monito del Monte.
Pretty cute little dude.
The okay. This mollusk.
That mollusk is still around.
And the mountain pigmy possum, which is a fucking adorable animal.
There's some cuties out there that are still around,
There's some cuties, there's some badasses, and I'm not saying we're going to fucking see the Tasmanian tiger come back, although there is talk about scientists trying to, bring them back with like some fucking Jurassic Park shit.
I will say this at the end of this. There are about 1 billion fluff pop science articles about all of these species that I mentioned tonight and all the ones I didn't, where it's like scientists say it may be possible to bring back the Baiji. But as far as it actually happening, it just hasn't. As far as any development towards it happening or any plan for it happening, I couldn't find anything. So I pulled nothing of it. Right. It's just a way to kind of assuage our guilt. Oh, look, we can bring them back. The dodo might be resurrectable, guys. There's just 1 million of those articles, but not a single fucking study that shows that it's possible.
The dodo could come back. Click here.
It's just, you know what I mean? So I pulled none of it because these animals are fucking gone, dude. We may at some point in the future be able to bring them back, but that's not accounting for the fucking 1,000 species that are going to disappear this week. You know what I mean? So I could keep doing these in perpetuity. The rest of my episodes for the life of Deep Fat Fried could be the extinction of animals since human beings became populous. And I would never run out. And that is a sad fucking fact.
Here's 2018 about how they're bringing the dodo back, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing them back. This is from a reputable source. This is from
but TJ,
bring it back, Paul. What's that, Scott?
You ever notice Paul's a negative kind of guy?
Yeah, I did.
He's real negative about these animals.
Yeah.
Glad they're extinct.
Why don't he's glad they're extinct. Scotty, you evil bastard.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next
later
with more delicious contento here on your favorite podcast. A deeper, fatter fried.
Deep fat fried. Deep fat fried.